once everything had gotten resolved, and she said, "There's no place like home." There's no place like home. And I give praise and thanks this morning to the divine Holy Spirit that we all live in and move in and have our very being. Because that's what makes us home. It is this embracing. And so we have the opportunity and the privilege of gathering on this celebration of Pentecost. And you know what that's about, right? Kind of, sort of. So I'll just remind us. We heard the gospel. The joy, of course, is that he came and appeared before the disciples and blew on them first. Since they had walked with him, they got the gift first. But even they weren't prepared for what was about to come a few days later. And of course, I love our beloved Thomas, right? He was a little late to the cause. Wasn't there at all and said, won't believe it until he appears. And so 8 days later, the master comes. And when he comes, he lets him put his hands, his fingers in the prints. And I'm so grateful for that. For those of us who walk in a spirit of unbelief, even having walked with the master, couldn't get it. I'm grateful for that. Because for those of us who are challenged sometimes in our believing that this comforter, this holy essence that was breathed upon them is ours as well. And so 50 days, 10 days after their 40 days, 40 days the master ascends, but the promise of the presence has already come. You see, the celebration of Pentecost, this 50th day, of course, was a Jewish celebration to begin with. It was when the Jews were all gathered in Jerusalem. But our gang, of course, were hiding out. Because many things had happened, and they, of course, felt as though they were going to be strung up as well, which was the custom for Christians in those days, and the customs for those who have bright, bright lights, kind of like it is today. Not really much has changed. And so we have this amazing day called Pentecost, where we hear from the gospel that the tongues of holy fire came upon them, and they went out to speak. Because when you have it in you, you can't hold it. You got to tell somebody. When that light that shines within you is empowered, that it's already present in you. That's the joy of knowing it. He gave it, he blew it on them early. They already had the seedling. Do you see? The kindling was already there. You already have the kindling. It is just our willingness to allow. But when it comes upon you, you cannot hold it back. So they say it's the celebration of the church because as they came out, they were in this upper room, and we hear about the dramatic tongues of fire that came upon them. And as they went out to speak, they could speak anybody's language. And of course, the Jews had been gathered to the festival from all over the Roman Empire. Right? You heard there was this one and that one. Kind of like it is when folks from Texas and folks from New York get together. They don't really understand each other. But with this tongue, the understanding and mostly the proclaiming of the gospel, the proclaiming of this Christ, this principle that Yeshua took on to demonstrate that we may have life, and that more abundantly. Because that was his purpose for coming out of what we understand he spoke. I'm here. I'm going to show you how to walk this thing. I'm going to take on the greatest amount, the greatest fear of all of humanity. I'm coming back. And I'm going to leave you with a comforter that you may walk through whatever trial is in your life. What better could it be? This presence, this Shekinah glory, this amazing grace is available to anyone willing to have it. Because so often we look back at that Pentecost and we say, what does that have to do with me? How is that going to help me get through? Well, the ages may have changed, but the stages of consciousness have not. We are still incarnate. We are still spirit in flesh. We are spiritual beings living in a spiritual universe governed by spiritual laws, having a human experience. And we get to say what it is. Because what are we? Creators. But we are not separate from. See, that's been the challenge for us, is that we thought we were separate from the divine and separate from one another. And it is in this separation that we have all our ills and pains and all the rest of the stuff that the world is hungering for now. And so we now are being asked to stand in the glory and the love made manifest, to allow that which is holy and sacred to be made manifest in us, that we may bring glory and power and peace and all of the gifts that are available if we scrub floors or if we administer great wealth. It really doesn't matter. So this Pentecost energy, my beloveds, let it come. Let it come upon you and lift you and transform you. Let it come upon me and lift me and transform me, that I may be what I agreed to be at the beginning of this life. At the beginning, in the beginning. Is there more to say? I don't think so. Let it. Let it. Let it. Let it. Breathe it. Be it. Invoke it. Commit to it. Allow. Allow. It is the vine, and we are the branches. Presence of the Holy Spirit be upon you.